If your organisation only uses the traditional risk management approach as the view on how to manage critical risks, then it's likely there are gaps and holes in your critical risk management process. That almost might sound like a contradiction and might be a little bit a challenge to get your head around, but I'll map out what I mean by this and then we can see where we end up. So if I think about a atypical critical risk management process, it all starts, at the start of the process, there's the broad brush risk assessment. So the purpose of the broad brush risk assessment is identification. So what are our critical risks? And there's a few tests and things we do, such as mapping out our materiality thresholds. I'm not trying to boil the ocean, etc., etc. And once we get to our list of critical risks from the broad brush risk assessment, if we call that sort of step one, then step two is where we then take each of those risks and we then go and do a risk assessment on them. So here, it could be a bow tie analysis, could be some other type of risk assessment. So, for example, falling from height might be one of the critical risks. We do a bow tie on that. Same as fire, loss of control of vehicle, etc., 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 till we've done all of the critical risks that we've identified here. And this is really about analysis, isn't it? We take each one of those ones, pull it apart. How can it happen? What could be the possible consequences? What are our preventive controls, mitigating controls? And also what's liberated from there is what are our critical controls? So, after that, we've identified our critical controls, and then we'll put in place management plans or standards, procedures, critical control performance standards. We'll set up our critical control verification programs, and then we'll go off and execute these things. So CCV, critical control verifications, we go out and check stuff in the field, get some intelligence, do some reporting, do some analysis and improvement, and then that sort of cycles through. And this is a standard approach to critical risk management. And for a number of organisations, and even those that have had these programs in place for a while, just getting to this stage of this process working and not being gaps, it's a bit of work. And there's always room for improvement. And unfortunately, I've seen some organisations get it wrong, and we're trying to help them start again or go to version 2. So if I look at this and think about this, this is a real risk assessment or risk management based process, isn't it? We identify, we analyse, we control, and we're just seeing these things as vertical pathways. Sometimes there might be, there might be a control that lives in one of these risks, might also be there, and there might be a little bit of touch point left or right, or depending on on our bow ties. Where we start to, where the opportunity is if we look at some of the controls or things in our management plans, excuse me, we can see there's some fundamental systems that most likely are applicable across a number of risks. So a classic example is emergency management, be that rescue teams or rescue plans or recovery and everything like that, because all of these things could get to a point where we don't want this thing to happen or we're in an emergency scenario. So one of our fundamental systems is emergency management. And this is where the idea of, I don't have them all listed here, but the principles of process safety come in, where they say, there's 14 foundation systems. So one might be change management, contractor management, emergency management, etc., whatever the other, the other numbers are. And the principle being, for example, change management. We know if we got change management wrong, there could be some examples of how it could end up in a falling from height or not protecting a falling from height scenario. Same as could liberate, fire opportunity or some issues around our vehicle interaction risk. So we're starting to see these principles go applied across our risks. So once, yes, we want to have this vertical pathway, but also we want to have very good line of sight on these foundation systems, which are, call them principal controls if we want, or principal control management systems, that if we get them right, give us a better chance of success in all of these different pathways. So that's one idea, and I've been talking to a few people recently in and around this and making sure that our critical control verification strategies also check these foundation systems. Then we can look at some other learnings as well and seeing what can apply to right. So there's There's a book which I really liked, 10 Pathways to Death and Disaster by Dr. Michael Quinlan, I think is the name. If I got that wrong, apologies. And he has identified that through the history of disasters going back forever and a day, and it's mining, oil and gas, heavy industry disasters, there's been some common failure modes or factors that, if we can learn from that, and we can make sure we don't have these present in our environment or in our organisation, also stop some goals here. So, for example, maintenance failures. I think it's around strategy execution of maintenance. So this could be almost the asset management type of thing. Maybe not a bow tie falling from height is going to pick it up, but what we're learning from history, use a green one because that's better, is maintenance failures could certainly be contributors or key control strategies across here. Failures in the risk assessment process. So again, that's probably not a surprise, but that's being represented. Failures in the auditing process. Ignoring alarms, as an example. I think that ties in with the HRO, sensitivity to operations and things like that. So with these, ignoring alarms, that's not really a system or a process, but the opportunity for us is to think about, well, how can we measure or how can we monitor if we have this type of, say, problem within our organisation, or how do we not have this problem within our organisation, because we know these things also can contribute to those. So what's my message here? Hopefully I haven't gone too deep. One, just getting to this on the vertical, that's a bit of, takes effort, takes time. There's some ways to do it the right way, some ways to do it the wrong way. I guess this is the primary thing, get to that. But if at the same time on that journey, you can start to factor in some of these elements, either during your journey or post the journey of this. So we don't want to just have a vertical, we just don't want to have a horizontal. It's where we start to have this matrix-based view. And those crossover points will start to pick up some things that we don't necessarily identify when we go just either that way or that way. All right, that's it. Very interested in what other people have to say. This one's a little bit longer, but I'm pretty passionate about this one. I think there's a real opportunity that we can do better in this space. So chat to you later. Bye-bye.